Hey everybody, stage one is moving along. My name is Matthew, I'm part of the Digital Summit team. You've probably heard me blather for the last 2 days. I appreciate you listening to my poor attempts at humor. Thank you for being here. And tonight, in a few hours, you're gonna get a survey in the email. And we still do email surveys, but your feedback is very, very helpful. Not only rating the speakers and rating the sessions, that helps us continue to improve the product and the conference, but tonight, we'd love your feedback, what you liked, what you didn't like. It was too hot, it was too cold. We're aware that it's a little too cold or too hot. But you can tell us that. The Wi-Fi was fantastic, the greatest box lunch I've ever had in my life. We're all open, nobody's laughing, so that's apparently not a joke to most of you. Okay, close out this session. Laura Duncan's here from Denver, Colorado, and she is with a company called Page One Solutions. She's going to talk about advanced A/B testing. So I'll probably learn something here. Let's welcome Laura to stage.
Thank you. Oh, I'm ready to go. Hello. Hi, I'm Laura. I'm here to talk to you about Google Optimize. It's a great new-ish platform that Google released to help you run some really simple or sophisticated A/B tests on your website. And I'm really excited about it, so I hope that you learn something. Quick introduction, I've been doing SEO for about 6 years. I'm originally from Texas. I live in Colorado now with my husband. We've been there for about 5 years. And our life goal is to visit all 58 US national parks. So far, our favorite is Yosemite in California. If you haven't been, you should go. If you have been, you probably know how wonderful it is. So let's get started. So let's do a quick review of A/B testing. When you are running A/B tests, there's some tried and true scenarios that you want to run your tests on. Most of the time it's going to be something that is measurable and specific to your business. This is often going to be a conversion element because one of the big goals of A/B testing is how to increase leads. Interaction elements, you want people to be engaging with your website. You can also do things like imagery and videos, language, content. It's a great way to prepare your website or landing page for a redesign. You can really see what's going to work, and then you can make that change permanently when you do the redesign. Before Optimize, there still are, a number of great tools out there. Optimizely, VWO, Unbounce, I'm sure a lot of you use a lot of these tools. They're usually not free. If they're free, it's for a short amount of time or it's very limited. The setup of these is hit or miss, just depends on what you're trying to test. The data is not integrated into Google Analytics, that you can see it in the bigger picture of your organic or paid or social traffic. And there's just feature limitations. You can only do so much. If you're in Unbounce, you have to stick to the Unbounce platform, etc. And then there was Optimize. So Google released the free version of Optimize in late 2016, so it's relatively new. It syncs with your analytics and tag manager platforms that you already have set up, so it's pretty seamless to integrate and initiate. The data is also integrated right into the Optimize platform, so you don't have to go anywhere else. You can see what the results are or how it's going without ever leaving Optimize. And there's a full what you see is what you get, or WYSIWYG site editor that helps you create experiments and run these A/B tests without needing to know how to code, which is huge because not every SEO knows how to code, not every social media manager knows how to code, but pretty much everyone can use a WYSIWYG site editor. Google Optimize offers 3 methods of testing currently: A/B tests, multivariate tests, and redirect tests. For the purposes of this presentation, I'm going to focus specifically on A/B testing. It also gives you a range of audience targeting settings for device, location, browser, page URL. We'll look at some more of those in a little bit. You can split your audience from 50-50 if you're doing A/B to 33-33-34 for ABC, or really anything up to 99-1. Not sure why you want to do that, but you can. It only lets you run 3 experiments at a time. You can set up more if you know that you want to test stuff in the future, but 3 active running experiments. I think that's actually a good limit because it lets you control how much you're really trying to change on your website so that you don't have too much going on and have things kind of maybe interfering with each other, or you're just not, you're getting mixed signals from what it is that you're running. For an agency, which is my background, I recommend setting up one container, an account of Optimize per client or site, so that you sort of have everything really clean, and ideally it's going to be the account that you use that you already have analytics and tag manager set up with for that client or site. It integrates with your existing Google Analytics account, so you can tie it to specific views for your preference. If you have certain things set up, you can say, I only want to send this to my testing environment, or I want to send this to the same place that all my other traffic's coming. And then you set specific objectives of the experiment that can be tied to the analytics goals that you have set up in that integrated analytics account, or bounces, page views, and session duration. So let's see how we get started with Google Optimize. You go to this URL, super easy, optimize.google.com. You're going to set up your account, create your container. You install the Google Optimize code onto your site. It gives you two options. You can either do this through Tag Manager. That's the easiest way. There's a built-in tag that you just plug a code in, and since Tag Manager would already be integrated with your site, Optimize is pretty much ready to go right then. It also gives you the hard-coded option, where you have a snippet that you put directly onto your website. That's the method that I recommend using because it comes with an additional flicker elimination code snippet. This means that when a user comes to your site, the variants are going to load before the page is actually viewable, so that the page isn't loading and your user's looking at it and then the image changes suddenly. So I think that hard coding the tag or the code onto your site with the flicker elimination is a better way to go because it improves the user experience. Maybe it takes an extra step to get your developer to apply that to the site, or if you have to do it yourself, but I think it makes for a better user experience. Then you sync the Optimize container with your Google Analytics account. You install the Google Optimize Chrome extension, which is what is going to run your WYSIWYG editor. And I gave you a little short link if you want to go ahead and check that out. And then probably the hardest part is determining what experiments you want to run. So again, think about what's important to your business or to this client. Think about what is measurable and applicable to an A/B test. You can do a lot of things, but what's really going to matter and what's really going to be useful for an A/B test? And what will your boss or client approve? You can do a lot. You can basically redesign a website with this WYSIWYG editor, but if you have a conservative boss or client, you probably want to start simple. So it's really that simple, 5 quick steps. You set up the Optimize account, you integrate it with your site, you sync it with analytics, install the Chrome extension, and decide on what you want to test. And then you're ready to go. So you're going to set up an experiment now. It's pretty simple. The whole platform is very intuitive, like Google tries to make most of their products. You click Create Experiment, name your experiment. It's good to be specific because you might have other people that come into this container and want to see what's going on, or if you're going to be running multiple experiments, you want to be able to differentiate them quickly. Add the URL for the page on which you want to start editing. So in Optimize, it has native navigation if you want to turn off the WYSIWYG and just navigate through your website. So you can go to the page you want to edit, but you might as well start with the one that you want to make the changes on. And then select which type of experiment you want to create. Again, that's the A/B, the multivariate, or the landing page. Link it to the analytics view, specifically, that you want to send the data to. You'll have the data in Optimize, but it will also move over into your analytics account. Add the experiment objective. So most often you're gonna want to have this tied to a goal that you already have set up in analytics for a conversion, whether it's a form fill, a phone call, an email, whatever. Or you can select bounces if you're trying to lower your bounce rate, or page views if you're trying to send traffic a certain place, or session duration, or you can create a custom objective with an event or a page view. So it's pretty versatile. Add a description and hypothesis. So again, if other people are getting into this container and they want to check out what you have going on, or especially if you have a client that might be going in there, they want to know what's going on. So add that quick description. It's also a good time to really think through what it is that your goal is and if this experiment is really going to achieve that. And then you're gonna set your audience targeting to say, I want this group of people to be eligible to see this experiment. So you're ready to create your variant at this point. You're gonna use the WYSIWYG editor to make the desired change or changes to a page or a set of pages or to a site-wide element. You can change content, images, videos, layout, colors, pretty much anything that you have on your website, you can change using the WYSIWYG editor. And I think a really good tip is to stick to your objective. It's easy to get overwhelmed. Like I said, everything that is on your website is selectable, editable, changeable, modifiable, whatever. So you can get in there and be like, oh my gosh, I want to make this crazy. I'm gonna change so much. Start simple, stick to your objective, don't get overwhelmed. So this is a preview of the WYSIWYG site editor. You have 3 elements. You have the app bar at the top. You have the editor palette here in the corner. And then you have the current selection. So as you mouse over elements of your website, the current selection will change and highlight what it is that you're on. And it might be the full block, or the individual element, the social icon, the group of social icons. It's really like using the inspector and your dev tools on your browser, where you can just sort of mouse over things and find what it is that you want to change and select it. So for this demonstration, I am going to change this button on this website because it's a conversion-based element. It's for requesting your evaluation. It's in this little call to action box, and I think it's a good opportunity to reinforce the free offer in the button itself and carry that through. So I've selected the element with the current selector. I'm going to click Edit Element in the Editor palette. I selected Edit Text, change it to Request Your Free Evaluation, and then I used the editor palette to change the typography to make it bold and make the text just a little bit larger. You have a lot of options in both of these areas to remove the element entirely, edit the text, edit the HTML behind it, etc. And then in the editor palette, you can change typography, dimensions, layout, all kinds of things. So it's pretty robust. Optimize also gives you a source of devices that you can test the changes on. And this is especially important for responsive websites, which hopefully you all are managing and using. So I recommend checking your changes on many of these devices, but at least one of each of the main device categories, mobile, tablet, and desktop, to make sure that the change carried through correctly and didn't get really wonky when you upgraded or downgraded to a different device. At that point, you're going to set your objective and targeting. So objectives gives you, again, goals, bounces, page views. In this case, I said I want the goal to be form fills because that's where that page goes when you click that button. For the targeting, there's a lot of options. You have whether or not you want 100% of your visitors to your site to even be eligible to see this, or you can scale that back to say, I only want to show this to half the people that come to the site. Within that group of people, whether it's 100 or 75, you can say, now split it 50-50, 60-40, 80-20. I think that 50-50 is probably going to give you the best A/B, but you can change it if you want. And then you have a whole bunch of targeting options from URL to behavior to technology. So if you say, I only want this to be eligible for mobile users, or I only want people in Firefox to see this experiment, the targeting gives you all those options. You can also set it based off of URL. That's often what you're going to be using to say any page that has this in the URL, or any page that has, this subdirectory. If you have a really nice subdirectory site set up, you can set that URL targeting, and at that point, you're pretty much ready to start your experiment. So you're going to click Start Experiment. Pretty intuitive, and it's up and running. The lower screenshot is what it looks like when you have an active experiment running. What I really like is the little person icon will tell you active users that are seeing which variant, if they're on the original or your test. So it's kind of fun if you're kind of a little bit of a nerd like me and you're like, ooh, people are looking at my variants, so cool. Or, hey, they're looking at the original and lowering. So it's fun to kind of check in and see what's going on. So a few tips for creating your variant. As I mentioned, if you're working on a responsive site, I actually recommend starting your changes on mobile and scaling up. Responsive sites should be built from the mobile up in the first place, so you might as well start your changes on mobile and scale up to desktop. I found that that has the least friction for executing your variant. Once you're confident in the changes, check it on the devices that I showed you. Google Optimize gives you a whole bunch that you can check it on. And then when you're confident and you've started running your experiment, check it live. Use different devices, use incognito and private browsing to be more eligible to see the experiment, and just make sure that in that live environment, that the experiment looks good and is following the path that you think it should be following. Google Optimize recommends running your experiment for a minimum of 2 weeks. That's pretty general, but I think it also is gonna, you're gonna need to use your best judgment based on the quality of the site traffic. If it's a low traffic site, you wanna run a little longer to get a bigger data sample. Or if the experiment is very niche, it's on a very, sub-page, or it's only eligible to mobile Firefox users, I don't even know if Firefox is on mobile, but maybe, then you're gonna wanna run it for longer to get a better data sample. So let's look at some experiments that I've been a part of and what the results are, so you can kind of see what you're gonna get from this. In this first example, we did a very simple change. We added a color contrast to the free consultation offer in the heading, and that was pretty much the only change. That was on every page of the site. It was for every user that came to the site, 50-50 split. So you can see the results. It's a little blurry, sorry. We ran this experiment for 27 days. We had 201 sessions that the experiment was eligible for, and we had 0 conversions on the original where the color contrast wasn't there, and 4 conversions when we had the color contrast. And the conversion is an actual form fill once people clicked that free consultation offer. For a very small business, which this website represented, 4 conversions is huge, especially compared to 0. With 0, we're not really bringing a whole lot of value to our client. With 4, if they got 1 good lead out of that, that could have paid the bills for that month. Here's another simple experiment example. All we did here was add a color contrast to the contact element of the navigation to really help that stand out and try and drive more clicks to the contact page, and then have people fill out that contact form. Here, as you can see at the top, Google Optimize will declare if they think there's a clear winner. In this case, they felt like there was enough data to say, yep, the variant did much better. We tripled the leads for this particular experiment. So we only had 5, well, we more than tripled. We only had 5 conversions without the color contrast, and the same amount of time, we had 16 conversions with the color contrast. And again, this was for filling out a form and getting leads for this client. So we really demonstrated, such a simple change really brought you, we more than tripled the leads that we brought you in the same amount of time, which we ran this for 91 days. And it's hard to see, in fact, you probably can't see it, but interestingly, we actually had about 60 fewer sessions on the variant. So not only were we disadvantaged with the traffic, but we had way higher conversions. So this was a no-brainer. We permanently implemented the change of this color contrast on this site because we thought, hey, this continues to bring leads, all the better. Here's an example of changing the language on a mini contact form, or on a contact form. So this client offers free consultations for particular services. That offer is sprinkled throughout the content of the page, but then once someone gets to the actual conversion element, which is the form, that offer is not reinforced. So we thought, hey, if we add free consultation, ideally we're gonna get higher form fills, and let's see what happened. We did. We increased the lead volume 30% for this client during this time with just adding that free consultation offer into the contact form. We ran this experiment for 91 days. We had almost 10,000 sessions. We went from 34 conversions, which is form fills in this case, was our objective, on the original to 44. And again, for a small business in 3 months, increasing their lead volume 30% is huge. As an agency, we're really saying, hey, we're bringing you value. We built you this website, but we're gonna keep finding ways to make it better and finding new ways to capture more leads for you. So we're working on permanently implementing that language update for this particular site. And the last example I have, this was about form placement. So on the home page, it's a little hard to see, but this contact form is just buried. It's so far at the bottom that the scroll bar is going to be the best thing to tell you how low it is. It was under so many other elements that somebody would have to scroll so far down to finally get to that conversion option. That wasn't working very well. So we thought, hey, maybe if we move the form higher, we'll get more conversions. So in the variant, we moved the form up, simple change, to be nested right under kind of the header and banner area, ideally above the fold, at least on desktop. And we quadrupled the leads for this client. We went from 2 conversions on the original with the form buried way down to 10 in that same amount of time, which was only 26 days. So again, this was a no-brainer. Optimize said, hey, we know it's a clear leader, so you should make this change. This client actually agreed to do a redesign and completely overhaul their website and really highlight these conversion elements much higher. And from an agency standpoint, you can take the results of these experiments and apply them to other clients. You don't have to run this same test on 4 different websites to know that it works over and over. You can say, well, it's, adding free consultation is going to increase conversions. Or, yeah, moving the form higher is going to convert more leads. So once you have the data, you can be pretty confident that these are changes that you should be doing more regularly in your site builds. So pretty simple stuff. The goal is that you should start using Google Optimize for A/B testing. All of those experiments that I showed you were very simple. A color change, just modifying some language, moving something into a different location. It wasn't, rocket science, and it wasn't anything as marketers that you don't think about a lot to say, hey, I wonder if that would work better. Optimize gives you the platform to test whether or not that works better, and then have really clean data to convince your boss or client that you should make that change, but then also, build that into your whole process to say, we should be doing this all the time. And then your lead increases, those are gonna have a big impact on the SMBs that you're probably working with, or at least that we work with. SMBs don't have as much opportunity to do conversion testing. They do leave it up to their agency, or just didn't know how else to do it other than let's redesign the site and wait 3 years to see what happens. And all of this really brings value to your clients. It creates conversations, again, to say, here are things that we're doing to help your business. We're constantly testing, we're constantly improving, and we're gonna keep working to bring you more leads so that you keep paying us. So just to recap, some benefits of Google Optimize. It's free, so you don't have to convince anyone that you should set it up and start running it. It's intuitive. I think that with only this short demonstration, you can actually have an experiment up and running in under an hour yourself tonight. If you want to go home and follow those 5 steps to set up Google Optimize and then change something pretty simple, you can literally start your A/B test in under an hour. That's how simple it is. And it gives you clean data. Data-driven decisions are so important. You can't just do stuff willy-nilly anymore. You have to build the trust of your clients or of your boss. So Optimize really gives you that easy data to say, yes, this worked, no, this didn't work. And just as a disclaimer, I've run plenty of experiments that didn't have conclusive data that said, it's a wash, one isn't better than the other, and that's fine. It helps you to say, okay, what could I do differently next time? Or what else could I test that might be more effective? Or how could I modify this experiment to have a larger data sample? Or maybe I should just run it for longer. So it really kind of helps you self-modify. You're not always gonna hit out of the park and have this easy answer to say, oh yeah, we gotta make this change right away. Some additional features that I didn't cover. Optimize integrates with AdWords and Firebase for landing page and mobile app testing. It also allows for custom JavaScript and CSS integrations, so you can create some even more unique experiences and experiments. So that's pretty neat if you know what you're doing. And these are some really helpful resources. I recommend checking these out, especially the first one. Julian at Measure School has a great video walkthrough. I do have a link to the deck on the next slide if you guys don't want to take pictures. But Julian from Measure School has a great video walkthrough of Google Optimize. That's actually how I learned how to use the platform, pretty much just with that video and then it being intuitive enough to figure it out. And then kind of the Optimize overview page if you want to check out some other features. And again, that sign up page where you can go get started and have your test up and running in under an hour. So thank you. That's the link to the deck if you want to pull it up and get started. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming to Digital Summit. Enjoy.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, quick housekeeping. This stairwell is going to open. We're going to do the keynote next door, but the stairwell will open and be on both these. The keynote will be on that stage officially.